Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Mad Mamluks. I'm Mahin, and today I'm here with my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir Saeed, Sim, and Mort.
Yo.
And it's been a while since all four of us have been together on a roundtable discussion that we know you guys enjoy so much. So we want to put one out to kind of fill y'all in on some things we've been up to. Some of the frequency of the shows have been a little off, as some of the more astute listeners may have observed. And if you haven't noticed anything, everything's fine. But we just wanted to kind of give you guys some updates on some things going on, and also, maybe touch on some issues coming up, and where we see the podcast. So, couple things. First things first. Sim and I actually ran into each other at umrah. That wasn't necessarily. We figured we would miss each other, but we both knew we were going to go for umrah. So, Sim, that was your how many second umrah?
That was my second umrah in 2 years. Yeah.
And they nailed you on that visa fee?
Oh, no, actually, they reversed that visa fee. And for those who don't know, the Saudi Arabian government had instated a visa fee for people who are repeat umrah offenders. So if you go to umrah too many times, you have to pay for it. It was like a $500 fee. It was ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous, but we ended up getting reimbursed because too many people ended up complaining to the Saudi consulate, and it ended up carrying over to the government. And they said, no, this is ridiculous, because the main people who would get hurt by this kind of a fee would be, the people who are selling merchandise in Mecca. I mean, there wouldn't be, that would cut into the budget of how much you're willing to spend at Umrah, right?
Right, because you're still going to go. If you're trying to go to Umrah, $500 probably won't change your mind, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
They probably wised up a bit and figured, a friend of mine was telling me that, McKinsey, and we had Salman, a friend of ours, on the show before talking about McKinsey. They did the KSA had McKinsey do a study for them and asked, outside of oil and gas, what's our top moneymaker? And they said religious tourism. And they're like, oh, snaps, we just tore everything down over the last 100 years. So that's why I think I did hear when we were at Umrah in Medina, Hasib Noor says a lot of the masajid, for example, in Medina, historically, they are trying to preserve or even rebuild some of them. I don't know how they're trying to do that, but.
Yeah, I mean, the Saudis they're too little too late, I think, in terms of, where the world is at and where they should have been by now. They spent way too much money on, expensive license plates for their princes and whatnot. So I think the time is gone now. Now that the oil is pretty much not what it used to be, they've squandered some amazing opportunities where they could have really built up Medina and Mecca to a modern city, basically. It's disappointing in the sense that we living in the West, we kind of envision Islam being compatible with a Western modern city, right? And you can't see that, really. I mean, you see it, but you see broken down infrastructure. You see things not being maintained in these cities, and streets not looking as nice as Jeddah would, right?
Riyadh. I heard Riyadh is pretty nice.
Yeah. So, it is a huge disappointment. I mean, that's something that, before going to Umrah, I went to Pakistan, and in Pakistan, the same thing. People are building new, amazing places. My, in-laws are from Karachi, and, I went to the nice part of Karachi called the Fence, and, they have much nicer homes and stuff, but again, you see them building these areas in defense are called phases. So I think it goes all the way up to phase 7. And you see all this new building and construction happening, but you see the early phases like phase 1, phase 2, the first initial ones that were being built, and you see how run down they become. And this is supposed to be the nice part of Karachi. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? And what's happening is that everyone has great ambitions, but they don't maintain. And it's a problem rampant throughout the Muslim world, and really depresses you after you, see some of the care that Western countries put into their infrastructure, and the Muslim world just can't seem to catch up. And you don't want to tell them that when you're visiting, and I guess everything is about privilege now. You can't speak from privilege, because apparently if you have somewhat elevated, or you were born into a somewhat elevated situation in life, you just can't talk about it anymore because you're a person of privilege. That's what the left always says, at least. But that was one of the major disappointments, that you're seeing crumbling infrastructure everywhere. You see really bad internet. That's why we couldn't send out podcasts to you guys through while I was out on that trip, because I was hitting the limit on uploads and downloads really fast.
So people who don't realize, if you haven't been overseas, they don't have like landlines in most places. They have these little mobile, like
USB.
They're like mobile
3G
routers.
chips.
So what you do is you get a SIM card from your provider, and you plug a SIM into this mobile router and just plug it into a wall, and you get like 3G internet. And it's spotty. It's very spotty, and you don't get reliable internet connection.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really crappy internet.
And I think all in all, a lot of people, when they go and visit and they come back, they don't have anything to look forward to as far as something being prefixed with Islam, a Muslim country, an Islamic country, whatever. And they come back here, especially the youth, and they always think of the Muslim countries as a third world country. They're never going to think of it as anything else. They don't have anything to look forward. No one has anything to look forward to. So naturally, they're not going to even think anything great of Muslims.
See, after me traveling around a bunch of places, the only place I could say that would be like that would be like Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I could see myself living in Dubai, provided that I had, like, if I can have the same corporate job that I have here, there, in the same pay, sure. I think anybody, here's the thing.
The problem is in Dubai, though, that you're just one mad Arab away from getting kicked out of the country. Like, if somebody gets upset,
It depends. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have your own free zone company, which you can establish yourself, you can sponsor yourself. You don't need anybody else to be there. But then again, that means you're self-employed, right? That means you're doing business. But if you work for somebody, in general, in Dubai, and if you're not doing labor jobs, meaning like building and plumbing, and then you're generally not going to get kicked out of the country. They don't like that. They know that country depends on foreigners. Keep in mind, dude, like, I think like 10% of the population is local. The rest of them are all expats.
Is it 10%?
Yeah, like in Dubai, specifically in Dubai, there's Filipinos, Chinese, Indians, Pakistanis, and like some other group, Russians too. They love
Bangladeshis. You forget us, man.
Too, yeah. But I think Bengalis or Bangladeshis, they go more to Saudi Arabia for some reason. I don't know what it is, but
that's because we more about that Dean.
Could be. But the thing is, but in reality though, in Dubai though, the thing is that people knock on it because, oh, look, they have nightclubs and they have bars and they have this. Yeah, that's true. They do have that. But like in any Western society, if you're looking for good, you can find good. And if you're looking for bad, you can find bad.
You know what I found out while I was in Karachi? That they actually have, alcohol that is available to people who's looking for it. And it's given kind of like a blind eye from the government. What happens is that people don't understand is that when you outright ban these things, there ends up becoming organized crime surrounding it. So they have to have like some kind of outlet where it's not in the public, but you go do your business in private, and you can take care of your haram needs in a private manner, and at the same time preventing organized crime.
Well, let's look at what happened though. If you don't allow these things, I'm not saying that you should, but it's the reality, right? There are going to be Muslims who drink, or people who drink in these places, people who do whatever, take drugs. But if you don't, and I hate to say this, but there are certain places in Pakistan, certain cultures, that even before Islam, they were heavy drinkers. And even during the Islamic period, when they came in, they continued to maintain that identity, that, hey, we are people who drink a lot, right? So it's not just Pakistan, but what happens is, if you ban these things, you end up with people like moonshining, which is far more dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Moonshining, like, in the Arab world, they call it arak, right? And people, like, even, in Saudi Arabia, they have people called sadiqis.
What is moonshine? I hear about that, like, in the South, West Virginia.
It's like brewing your own booze, dude. Like, it's like potent.
How's it? Oh, just for potency points point of view, it's dangerous.
As hell. Like,
Yeah, it's dangerous, right?
It's dangerous. Yeah, you can literally get alcohol poisoning from it. And plus, and it depends. There's no like regulatory process, so you can get people. You know, in the prohibition days, they were getting cholera from like moonshine because they weren't really the vessels, and there wasn't like really, you know, they were storing it in like jars and just covering it, and there was just no regulated process, right? So even in Saudi Arabia, you can go. People make this stuff arak in their bathtubs, and like they'll just find people that sell it to them, you know. But these kinds of things happen if you turn a complete blind eye to it. So I see the position that Sam is coming from, and that, you know, it's just like, hey, you know what, man? Yeah, it's wrong, but if you just cut it off completely, these people are going to get into organized crime, and they're going to make massive amounts of money. You don't want to empower organized crime with that kind of money they can make from
Karachi's the last city you want organized crime in, or more organized crime.
Yeah.
Right. Now, is this first time in Pakistan?
Yeah. I'm originally Indian.
Yeah. You know.
What part of India?
Hydro.
Yeah.
What part of India are you from?
Hyderabad.
Oh, but you're originally from But you're originally from the deserts of Medina, though, right?
I was originally from the deserts of Medina. I was just happened to be born in Hyderabad, and my dad was working in Medina, and the tunnels of Medina. I don't know. Some people may have seen them in their travels over there. No,
your dad was working.
I lived, I think, in the outskirts there. That's why I joke with Sheikh Amir here, and I tell him I'm from the deserts of Medina.
Was it like a mobile home?
That was
my people's.
It's from a trailer park in Medina.
Yeah.
Was it like a mobile home?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a mobile home.
Actually, the proper term now is modular home.
Yeah.
No longer mobile home.
So why were you in Pakistan?
There was a family wedding.
Was it
on my
lit?
wife's side.
How was it? Was it fun?
It was awesome.
Really?
It was awesome. It was very liberal, but enjoyable nonetheless.
Dude, I heard you had like white singers there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like imported American chicks?
No. You see, Pakistan actually has a thriving music culture. I don't know if people listen to Coke Studio and whatnot, but they have some great singers that came.
No, but you know what's crazy? That even in Bollywood, a lot of these singers that come there, they come from Pakistan. They sing in Bollywood. And it's crazy if you think about it, because there's such a rivalry between India and Pakistan, but that Bollywood industry is dominated by Muslim people. Like, I mean, like even from Pakistan and just northern people and like even actors and that. But it's a different subject. But Pakistan itself had like this, like he said, a thriving music industry.
So we always hear stories about how unsafe Pakistan or Karachi can be. But
I was terrified.
I don't think you sense too much of that.
No. I was terrified.
Remember you were talking about the cleanup that occurred.
No, yeah. I mean, apparently the Pakistan government sent in rangers and cleaned up some of the crime, but it only reduced crime by like 20, 30%.
But you guys
maybe.
didn't have any close calls, or did you sense
Listen,
lack of safety at all?
You have to be vigilant. You don't walk around with your smartphone, taking pictures. You take a phone that you're willing to part with.
Disposable phone?
A disposable phone.
Like a Nokia?
Yeah, so that didn't stop me, obviously, because I'm an idiot. But I end up taking my phone, but I just, try to conceal it.
So you were living on the edge.
Yeah, really living on the...
Looking for an adventure, huh?
Rebel.
On the opposite side of the edge, towards the dummy side, yeah.
Yeah, because you were saying you wanted your relatives wouldn't really let you go out anywhere. Same in Bangladesh, like, unless you have somebody a male escort almost.
You know what? What I found out was that security is really cheap over there. So you can, if you're really that concerned about your security, you can get a couple armed men for not a whole lot of money. So
yeah, but I heard they sell you out quick too.
That's always a possibility too. So
I mean, can someone else pay like $1 more?
Yeah, they could. But usually when you're dealing with the ex-army guys, I don't think you have that problem. Ex-military people who
ISI guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, Mahin, you've been to Dhaka, right?
Yeah, Dhaka is a freaking dump, bro.
You been there though?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Would you go back?
I mean, I go back to see family, but like, if living there, I mean, a better option would be stab myself in the eyes with like broken glass.
Because I got a friend of mine. He's from Boston. He goes to Dhaka every now and then. When he takes pictures out there, he lives in a pretty nice area, like upscale.
I mean, here's
smaller area.
Dhaka's got some nice spots. It's up and coming, I heard. But the traffic is ridiculous. My cousin has a 3-hour one-way commute. 3 hours one way. That's insanity.
It is.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I was over there for 2 weeks in March, and I was missing burgers and all my food here.
You couldn't get that in Dhaka?
Like, you get really fake broke.
It just wasn't an American burger.
No, you can
It was like a chapli kebab and like some white
yeah,
bread.
basically something like that. The good thing, they have some pretty good what's called mogla porata. It's like porata with like ground beef and eggs inside. That's pretty sweet. Other than that, you know, I got some old friends that moved there actually to start businesses. They're doing well. They like it, but they're fobs. You know, I mean,
Why do you say it's a bad thing? Like, but they're fobs.
I mean, you know,
So are you? I heard you're not an American citizen.
so you,
Wait, didn't you vote for Trump though?
I mean, I've always got this bias against, like, after I got married, right, my wife would be like, hey, we're going to go visit some, like, we got to invite somewhere. This auntie or this Bobby invited us. And I go up there and they're watching, like, Bollywood, speaking all Bangla, and, like, smells like fish up in there, right? And I tell her, like, listen, Sarah, you can't take any more invites from fobs. Because I just go in there and I just want to, like, I'm just collecting dust. And they're talking about, like, Awami League and the BNP and, like, Sheikh Hasina and all this stuff. I'm like, yo.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? I was like, this, like, you know, I'm better off just watching paint dry. Sure. I want to tie back to Umrah, though, because you guys have, Mort and Sheikh Amir, you guys have been, like, just, when was the last time you guys went, respectively?
I think the last time I went was in 2006.
So you went before Clock Tower.
Yeah.
Mine was in 2014.
Okay. Like, you went when you were at Azhar?
I went when I was in Egypt once, and on my way to India, I went once.
Okay,
yeah.
and then did you go through a group, or when you were living in Dubai, right?
Yeah, so I have some family there, so I get to apply through visa without having to go through the Umrah visa. So I could just walk in anytime, pretty much.
And then you kind of made your own package, Sim, right?
Yeah, I went with. Yeah, we made our own package through some travel agency. I don't know all the details behind it. Somebody was taking care of it in our family, and I just was like, when do I get out of this airplane? So
Tell me when to show up.
Yeah. No, like, so you guys, a couple of you guys, you make your own package. That's how people go to Umrah. They'll either go through a group or they'll make their own package. You went through a group last time, Sheikh Umar Haqqani's group, right?
Yeah.
How would you compare the two?
Going with someone who's dedicated and as knowledgeable as Sheikh Umar Haqqani of ICW, right?
Islamic Center of Wheaton.
So going with him, it's a whole nother experience. Especially when you go with family, there's a lot of responsibilities attached. You're always, you know, trying to be the shepherd and make sure that your family's okay. But when you're going with a group with just a bunch of guys, there is a lot more focus that you can put towards your worship. And a guy like Sheikh Umar Haqqani, who's always, you know, pushing you by example. You know, he's showing you what to do by leading everyone. I mean, the guy would wake up in the middle of the night and go, right?
He loves that place.
Yeah, and his knowledge of that place is just amazing.
And that was recent. The first time I went, when me and him traveled to India together,
right?
We studied in India together. We stopped by in Saudi first. He was in Syria, so he met me in Saudi. He came from Syria. I came from the States, and he told me, I'll take you around. Just in light conversation when I was talking on the phone. And when I went there, this is 2003, I was surprised how much knowledge he knew of everything there. He knew about all these historical things. He took me to all these cool places.
The only other person I know like that, and I'm sure you know a lot more because you're in those circles a lot more than me, but I think when I met Sheikh Hasib Noor, he knew that kind of knowledge.
Yeah,
and
he has gems. I haven't met anybody like those the gem like material.
Yeah,
that he
people
has.
who know like historical data. Like you're standing right by where Khadija's house is right now, and you'll be looking at a marble floor, but that's where Khadija radhiyallahu anha's house was.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what is amazing.
What's crazy about that place is that anything could be like a historical place, especially when you go into Mecca and you start looking up, and like some of the mountains areas around Mecca, directly near to, they have like homes that are like from pre-Ottoman eras, like old. You know, one of our friends, you know, over there, they had a family house in Mecca, which is 2 kilometers from the Haram, and that house itself was like built in like a 1700s.
Yeah, yeah. I went to house. We had to climb up this mountain. They had this a metal rail. It was kind of rusty. You go up this thing, and then like it's in the middle of a mountain. And there's a house built over there.
Yeah.
And I was like, SubhanAllah, man, people still live in the mountains over there.
They still live in the mountains.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and when you're flying over Saudi Arabia, you can't imagine how many mountains there are. You're just like, whoa, there's that many mountains in this country, and that's something really shocking. And when you think about a desert country that it has that many mountains,
It's beautiful.
What's crazy is if people travel into Mecca in different ways, but if you go, if you actually go by car from Jeddah or from Medina, whatever you're doing, but if you're driving into Mecca, the city of Mecca, and you see the mountains, you get an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
like
you got to go in the daytime.
Yeah, you go in the daytime, you just see these mountains, you're like, man, like Rasulullah walked through these things. Like
Yes.
the Sahabas went through these things to get to where they had to get to. You know, or like Rasulullah would go to these and when you talk about going to the cave of Hira, it's no joke. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to walk like 10, 15 minutes and get up there.
Yeah. And you talked about walking. There's if you think about when they went for the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, he sent out a group of individuals to go ahead of him to make sure that the path was clear. But because of the treaty, he wanted to show them we're only going there for Hajj, and they didn't take any weapons with them, which was the Arabs never traveled in the desert without their weapons, right? And they went in their ihram after about 6 miles of getting out of Medina, heading towards Mecca. If you drive, how was it? 6 hours?
From Mecca to Medina?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a longer, about 6 to 8 hours. Yeah.
6 to 8 hours. So imagine 1,400 to 1,500 people, all in ihram, right? Simple clothing, no weapons, and they're marching on foot, a majority of them, right? And in a very simple way, as if they've already began their Hajj, right? And going in that heat with all those people, but now imagine you're responsible for 1,400 people now, right? And that drive, when I went a few times in the daytime, I was thinking, how do people walk through this?
You know what's crazy? I'm so lazy that I don't want to fly into Medina first. I want to make sure I get to Jeddah so I don't have to wear ihram in Medina and do my ihram all the way from Medina to Mecca.
Yeah.
I felt the same thing actually.
I'm being honest. Like, I'm like, let me start in Jeddah because it's easy. I don't want to be sitting my ihram for 3 hours.
The crazy, we're gonna be chilling in AC too when we're driving.
Yeah.
You just can't do that for Hajj though. Hajj you got to fly to Medina because Hajj I went Medina first, but for Umrah, we flew into we did Chicago to Doha, changed the ihram at Doha, and then it's not that much. And then as soon as you get to Mecca, you do Umrah and you're out.
It's like 2 hours, right?
Right. Whereas in Medina, you're dealing with 10 hours, and the bath at the I think I talked about this in another pod. There's a bathroom where at the miqat, going from Medina to Mecca, that's the worst bathroom I've seen in my life.
Oh yeah,
it's dirty.
It's so it's like it's in a masjid. The Western style ones are terrible.
Yeah,
you just don't even bother during Hajj season, especially with the kind of traffic.
One thing I realized in Egypt, even like the public bathrooms, the Western style toilets are the most disgusting.
You can't keep it clean.
You can't.
Is it
so many
because of
people
the
are sitting down
plumbing?
those things.
Yeah.
How do you keep that clean?
Yeah,
dude?
yeah. You got to go to squat
Everybody
down.
and everybody has a different way of going to the bathroom.
Yeah,
some
you
people
gotta squat
stand
down.
in the seat. Some people I mean, God knows.
Some people,
Yeah, so I want the last thing I want to say is we've all been. I think the listeners, I think anyone who's been to Umrah or Hajj would say go ahead and go. I mean, especially for Hajj this year.
Well, it's especially because we're heading into summer months for Hajj, so it's going to get harder and harder for the next few years. I think for the next 10 years, I think
something like that. But if you got a green card, don't leave.
Yeah,
that's a caveat.
Yeah, don't leave.
So I think it came to our attention that some people might have been offended by some of the things we've been saying lately or taking a different position. A lot of people are still confused about what we do. The days of us, I can speak at least for us four here, of picking a side and having a line with one group and not
choosing
with the
a
other
team.
group, it's over. We're done with that. What we try to do is stick to the facts and what are important.
And what's right.
A lot of times, exactly, right is right and wrong is wrong. And a lot of times Muslims get moved by emotions. And moving by emotions is never good for you, right? Because we become over emotional. We've done this with so many issues in the past. And that has caused us to look like hypocrites in the end, right? So at the end of the day, we don't side with anybody. What we do is we try to have a conversation and listen to everybody and anybody, because we Muslims spend too much time talking and less time listening.
Yeah. And we want to get to the bottom of the truth. The truth is what you want to build all your thoughts on. And when you have a solid foundation, you are able to build the correct conclusions based on those thoughts. Imagine if you have false data in your brain, right? Imagine all the false conclusions you make off of that false data.
Yeah.
Now, we're in a culture where, half the time we're binge watching Netflix episodes and whatnot, and we're collecting all this garbage data and stuff that's fake out of someone else's imagination. And we're making life decisions based on this false data. This is something that we've talked about in earlier episodes, that it's so important that the foundation of our thoughts are true. And this is something that's a central theme in Islam also, that the truth is what is the reason why Islam is the correct religion, and that nothing else is accepted. So the truth is the reason why Iblis is going to hell, is because he couldn't recognize the fact, the truth that Adam was better than him. That is what we're trying to get around, is beyond this left, right, alt-right, neo-atheist. We wanted to get to the truth, the heart of the matter, build pure, good conclusions based on this truth. And we're hoping that this journey of ours, that you're a part of this. We don't care about all this other
and
noise
we
that's
have no
happening.
affiliation with any group. All we're doing is creating a conversation so people can listen to different sides. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned, I'm not that old, but I've spent enough time here now with these different groups and different articles and lectures and people and organizations. Anybody can present something to look appealing.
Yeah.
On any side, no matter how good or how bad. So the point is that a lot of times we get, confused in the details and we lose the substance.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage our community and our listeners and our ummah as a whole, so that we can engage with each and every one of them and have a conversation and say, hey, well, what do you think and why do you think that?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we fight about, things that we are confused about, that we have a misconception about. And a lot of times we get mad at non-Muslims for not understanding our position because, they don't talk to us. They don't know what we believe. They don't know what we actually really truly believe.
But we do the same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly. We do that to our very own brother.
Yeah.
We do it to our very own, we assume things. And this is a problem that we do, a phenomenon, not only with Muslims, with people in general. We're quick to use our point of view and automatically assume that it's correct, and we're biased to that. And we're trying to kill that bias and say, look, you're human, I'm human, I have my faults, you have your faults, but let me hear your point of view. Can you hear mine?
Gotta leave emotion at the door.
Right. More, it reminds me, now reminded me, remember the podcast we did with Sheikh Joe Bradford right after the election, and I think you had made a comment about how a lot of white people were mobilized, and they felt that, and you could see where they were coming from, because they were, some white dude in Appalachia is disenfranchised, and one of my friends hit me. I was like, I can't believe Murtaza said that. I can't believe he would go there. And I was like, well, that's the whole, you have to toe some line. And I think that's why people, came at us, you guys are alt-right, because Islam is an absolutist on free speech, right? We're not going to tolerate someone talking BS about the companions or Rasulullah, etc. But I think we do, we're definitely more pro-free, we're not language policing each other, right? Or, down with, as long as you're upon the Quran and the Sunnah, and upon the proper understanding of the deen, your political opinion shouldn't be, it's not what they call qati, right? Is that the term? Yeah. Right? The clear cut.
Qati.
Right. I got the English.
Yeah, it's not a matter of aqa'id, right? I mean, these are things that if you look at what scholars talked about, I'm not going to open it crazy, but scholars like Ibn Khaldun, what they wrote about certain things, right? It's off the chart. About what they believe. The point is, these are opinions that they're not binding, right?
Yeah, Ibn Hazm said you could look at a woman naked for marriage.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying though, no,
I mean, it's a real. It's a because like I use this as an. I use that as an.
Nowhere. That's why.
I use that as an actual because there was a brother who was like trying to.
Where do you find this now?
It's a shout opinion. Like no one really uses it, right? But it's
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that what this is showing is that Muslims can have opinions, and I think part of the reason why we're not able to relate to other communities is because we don't put ourselves in their shoes. There's so many times that where we cry about certain, and I'll give you an example. I was talking about somebody today, my brother today, actually. You know what's funny? Muslims now are complaining about how Muslims are being treated in America. Granted, fair. We're American citizens. We should be treated better, sure. But how many Muslims stood up for the minorities in their countries when they were there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't want to talk. You'll find Muslims getting mad and say, no, Muslims have the first female president. We have, first human rights and all. Okay.
You know what? That's an amazing point that you brought up. I was talking to Muhammad Shirazi, who was a previous guest of ours on, he's works with the relief organization.
Founder of Islamic Oasis.
Founder of Islamic Oasis. And he was telling me about some Syrians that he was with in Syria. And, he said that those Syrians were telling him like, hey, where are the Muslims and where are all these people that, that should be supporting us and sending us aid and doing everything that they can to help us. And he asked them, well, where were you when the Palestinian cause was happening, when Palestinians were getting killed left and right? Where were you? It's the same thing's happening to you. And it's going to be a domino effect where people are just seeing each other being eaten and torn apart by enemies of theirs, right? And no one is coming to their defense until it comes to them. And we've had scholars, if you have been in Dawah for the past 10 years, you've heard a lot of the stories that many of our scholars gave us this warning about not to allow the pack to get separated, because when you allow the wolves to sacrifice the black sheep in the community, well, then what happens? You've already gave up the black sheep. Now your herd is smaller.
Yep. You open
and now
doors.
now you're open to attack more.
Well, but more important than that, Rasulullah talked about this in his farewell khutbah, that the Ahl al-Dhimma are people you take care of.
Yeah.
It's amana from me to you.
Yeah.
Amana, that word is strong, means to trust. Rasulullah entrusted us with something, that we act on his behalf and make sure they're safe. And the reality is that in most Muslim countries, the minorities have been mistreated.
Yeah.
And now it's coming back to bite us. Yeah. But when you tell Muslims this, they get offended. Yeah. They say, well, how can you do that? We gave civil rights and we gave human rights and, they make all these excuses. We need to man up and say, listen, the generations after the Prophet and the companions are not perfect. We made mistakes and we're paying for that now. Yeah. Right? Yes, there have been high points in Islamic history where we defended non-Muslims and we protected them and all those things, but there are many low points in our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when a non-Muslim says, well, why should we care about you? You don't care about us. There's no response to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so these kind of issues are what sometimes make Muslims uncomfortable. Yeah. And I have no problem talking about it because I'm over the issue of feeling uncomfortable.
It's not even uncomfortable.
You know what it is? No, I'll tell you something. Forget your feelings. You're not important. You're not that important, dude. Yeah. Your feelings don't matter.
Yeah.
Because your feelings prevent you from seeing what's true in front of you. And that's the biggest problem.
I think people, when they talk about things that happen historically, hiccups that happen historically, and some of those hiccups led to some major, devastation, they think that it's an attack on their deen and that it's not supposed to change your belief in Allah. Humans are always going to be humans. Humans are going to mess up all the time. That doesn't equal it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your deen. That's not what that means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The final messenger is the final messenger. None of that, that's solid. But if we make mistakes, we make mistakes and we have to admit it, That's a part of our belief too.
And the thing is that,
I think that's why people are uncomfortable talking about
they're uncomfortable. Like, for example, if they talk about the Ottoman Empire, it shouldn't be a matter of religion for you. It's history.
Yeah.
History we have good and we have bad. Why does that offend you? Be rational and say, you know what, you're right. Maybe the Ottomans could have done this better. maybe perhaps they could have done that better. That's not correcting your deen. That's not becoming liberal or modern or whatever they want to call you. No, that's being a Muslim, acknowledging that you made an error and then correcting yourself and saying, we're going to learn from that. And I think when some of these Muslims, like when they hear us saying, you know what, I don't really side with this or I don't really side with that, or let me double check what that is, that offends them. Why does that offend you? You know what's funny? Is that if you look at the news today, you'll find depending on what side you're on, you're going to hear that, oh, that news is bias. That news is fake. You know? Okay, fine. If that's the case, then why are you blaming me for double checking what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Right? The Quran says to verify news from people who are fasiqeen, right? So why are you blaming me for wanting to double check your sources? Should I just believe anything anybody's telling me?
Right.
The Quran says, "Qul hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen."
Yeah.
Present your evidence.
Right.
If you're truthful. Right? And so you're getting mad at me for not automatically accepting a position simply because the person's a minority or because he's a Muslim.
Right.
And you need, as a Muslim, you have to say, look, this is right and this is wrong. And the greatest example of that is when Umar radiallahu an, when he tried to abolish or limit mahr, right? And the woman stood up in front of him and said, we will correct you by the sword.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is the Umar ibn al-Khattab. Today's time, they'll be, oh, you shouldn't say that. You know, he's a great figure. You know, he's on your camp. You can't criticize him for doing that. You know, keep it hush. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not right. You know, we don't expose it. No, they said it openly because right is right and wrong is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, the leftists would be like, oh, he was just another man.
Yeah.
You know, that's that whole train of thought. I do think that one thing I want to clear, because I think a lot of people will listen to this show, especially the latter part of it. And again, and here's the problem. People read into what you talk about. So we're talking about, we're not completely in agreement with some of the, what maybe a mainstream Muslim organization might support of everything, you know, but everyone reads into something, right? A lot of people think I'm pro-Trump because I'm not 100% down with this like leftist agenda that Muslim community is pushing, right? I'm sure you've dealt with the same thing. I mean, that's what we just talked about. But at the same time, you know, this is what's going to happen, I think. People are going to listen to this and read into it that we're not down, for example, with, we're not defending people like Linda Sarsour. And I want to mention her specifically because she was at the forefront of this big march, right? We didn't talk about the march, but I think people would read into that you're not defending her against the Islamophobes. And we're not saying that at all. I actually think that... No,
actually, to be honest...
We have to defend her because that's like... Because we might have disagreement... Like, let's say we might have some disagreements with her, but that's like family, right? It's within the framework of family. When someone from the outside comes at your family, you got to defend.
No, here's the thing. At the end of the day, just because I don't agree on every point that you make doesn't mean I disagree with you as a person as a whole. Yeah. We can disagree. I can agree with you on 100 points and disagree on 2 passionately. Does that mean that we don't like each other? No. I mean, look, I mean, we do. Why is it okay to do that with sports, but not with politics?
Yeah.
Damn, I never thought of that. That's really cool.
Why is that okay?
What do you mean? Like, give me an example.
Like, for example, I like Michigan, you like Ohio.
The Ohio State.
Whatever, dude.
Okay, go on.
Okay, you like them, but you have you can talk all this crap about Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan.
Whatever, dude.
Scum.
Michigan. Stop getting so technical. Okay? All I'm saying is that rivalry is intense.
Yeah.
And we can still be friends.
Right.
But when it comes to something political, God forbid. Yeah. I can never speak to that person again.
Yeah.
He's so arrogant. Oh, God, he wants to support Trump. Oh, he's so liberal, that guy. I mean, whatever. I mean, why jump to those conclusions?
Yeah.
When you can do in other areas in life. And the problem is that we have to realize that we can disagree on points and still maintain our brotherhood or sisterhood. I have nothing against Sister Linda. I don't even know what she did, to be honest. I don't really follow it that much, or what people are angry about, or what they're happy about.
What happened
but the thing is, I know, you can tell me later, but what I'm saying is the bulk is this. The bulk of the point is this. I will support her, and this is my opinion, by the way, not everyone else, but I will support her in what she says that is right, and I will, be against her in what she says that is wrong. And that doesn't mean I dislike her as a person, or I actually...
What do you mean by against?
Well, not, I said dislike or be against the position. You know, it's just simple. You know, I think the position of a Muslim doesn't mean I have to badmouth her or slander her. No, it just means I'm a human being with a different position. Yeah. And we have different approaches.
Yeah.
Right, and I think one of the clarify is because what's happened is that Islamophobes, she even got on Milo's radar, I think.
Yeah, so that's basically what happened. That Milo found a picture of hers, and he threw
holding up her freaking her index finger.
Yeah,
which
she was holding up her index finger, and what I think she made like a Muslim Brotherhood reference to her.
He's an ISIS. He said ISIS.
Yeah.
That's the sign of ISIS is the index finger.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never heard of that in my life.
No, I mean,
you
look,
know
Milo's a troll, and what the problem is that in our Muslim community, we're giving way too much attention to trolls. You know, is that I mean, the left itself is giving way too much attention to Milo.
Yeah, who are you people? Like are you important to me?
All he does is put ridiculous memes and commentary up there, and everyone is just
falling into the trap.
Yeah, I mean, you're just giving him more attention. So just by us talking about it, we gave him.
Do you think there should be a Muslim Milo, by the way?
No, I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I didn't know who this guy was until you brought it up.
The Muslim Milo.
Sorry?
Is Nabil Aziz the Muslim Milo or no?
Nabil just got super happy if he's listening, which I know he does.
No, what I'm saying is, to be honest, I had no idea who.
Except he's straight though. You know, I think Milo's straight. I think the gay thing is just the front.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. He's pretty provocative, man.
You know, it just fits in this whole character thing. You know, if I want to build this like crazy character,
no, but you know what? I'll be honest with you, dude. If I wanted to build a crazy character that wanted to say crazy things in this country, it would be a gay character. You know why? Nobody can say anything against gays. You can say against blacks, anybody else, but gays have more rights than anybody in this country. You say oof to the gay, and it's over. I'm serious. I'm being dead serious. They have more rights than Muslims, Arabs, women. I mean, what other group can walk around in a workplace and say, hey, I'm blah, 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 and gay? You can't. I can't do that anywhere else, dude, and get away with it. They can do crazy stuff and get away with it. They can wear almost nothing and dance around in public and get away with it.
Yeah, I've seen that in the city. Here,
and
the point is, what we were talking about was that we're not about teams here, okay? We're about getting to the matter, getting to the heart of the matter, and having a discussion surrounding it, and then. Well, what we're going to do is draw some conclusions based off that.
Simba, I actually want to ask you a question because you're like the hero, adult mentor, or whatever we call it, leader, right? I was looking for the right word there. Do we allow anybody here, like on the show? Like, are we open to having a discussion with anybody? Like, let's say
I would say we're open to discussing with anyone who's serious, who has, who's put some thought into what they believe in and.
In their initiative.
They're taken seriously, you know, in our community. Like, I would say even, I would welcome a Shia person on this podcast. I think it's about time that we have that kind of discussion with Shias and trying to figure out, well, what is the end game here? How, are we going to be at each other's throats till the end of time, or are we going to, what is the end game here? Because it seems like, the Syrian war has made some huge splits in our community. Yeah. And I think...
Well, the thing is this.
What to do.
Okay, here's the bottom line. And Sheikh Amir can probably tell you this with regards to that. Shias and Sunnis are never going to find a common ground. But what we can do is say, hey, look, in this country, in the Western world, it doesn't matter whether you're Shia, Sunni, whatever it is, whatever group you want to be, liberal, moderate, you're just another Muzzy to them at the end of the day. So they're going to look at you the same way they look at me.
Exactly.
So either we can say, look, back home, we have our problems. We don't get along. But right here, we better get along.
Right.
Where we're here right now.
Yeah. The only people I'm not really cool with are, you know, the people who are working for Islamophobes, right?
Majid Nawaz,
Asrar Nomani, who else? What's that Somali lady's name?
No, she's not even Muslim, dude.
I don't think she is.
Ayan Hirsi.
Ayan Hirsi.
Yeah, she's on. You know what annoyed me? So like
this,
I'll get this on my chest, man. Like I listened to the Rubin Report, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that guy. He's
all about
big time Islamophobe. He's all about. Why would you listen to that podcast?
I like Ben Shapiro.
No, but I listen to a lot of
don't know
conservative radio shows like Michael Savage.
The question
listening
is,
to those
you
guys.
listen to it just because you want to get a broad view of
I like
who's
listening
out
to
there,
them.
because that's how that's how I like to get my information. I don't like to listen to some commie on the left. So
look, it's not about just listening to the opposition, but listen to everyone,
right?
And getting a worldview. It's one of the things I tell people who have all of a sudden Muslims have taken RT News, the Russian television propaganda.
Yeah.
And they're, taking Bashar Assad's side in the war in Syria. I'm like, hang on a second. You have to take every angle of the story. You just don't take what RT says and just because that's alternative news and it's somehow fitting into, your, whatever you want to hear. And you're kind of putting yourself into an echo chamber. So your natural inclination is to understand a certain type of commentary. So you're only going to be accepting that commentary. You have to hear every perspective. You take news from RT, you take news from, Western journalists, then you try to get the facts on the ground, and then you try to build some conclusions off of all that. And if you can't do that, then try to find people in your community that you trust, that you love, and ask them to help you make sense of things. Otherwise, don't make conclusions, ridiculous conclusions like he was forced to do this to the Syrian people, leveling entire cities and committing a genocide basically of Muslims. That is unacceptable to me. That just is on a level of intelligence that I can't respect that.
Right. And the last, what I wanted to close on the Rubin report, what I mentioned was, he talks about he's a free speech guy, right? But if you look at the Muslims he had on, like Muslims in quotes, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sarah Hyder, it's like, oh, we have atheist Muslim Sarah Hyder on the show today. Or some dude named Tariq, some Iraqi refugee who's like an atheist. It's all these like sellouts and like Murtadeen.
Yeah, well, there is a thriving ex-Muslim community out there. I mean, if you go on Reddit, you will see an entire subreddit called ex-Muslim.
Yeah, but it's not a conspiracy. People thought it was a conspiracy. It's real.
No, I have no problem. And to be honest, I don't have a problem with it.
The point is, so I was actually telling Nabil, Majid's the most practicing Muslim. I think Majid actually might pray. Is the most practicing guy on Rubin's show. So Nabil actually tweeted Rubin to invite Dr. Jonathan Brown on, but he hadn't responded. So clearly he's not interested in actually hearing from.
Look, no, before Nabil and anyone had reached out to these people, yours truly, I had already had these conversations with them. These people, they're not interested in getting to the bottom of the truth. They're not interested in having a balanced discussion. Okay, you can listen to all the podcasts you want around, and there'll be some that make you laugh and you feel like you might have learned something after that. But these people, they're not into having a balanced discussion and getting to the heart of the matter because they're representing their team.
They're pushing an agenda, of course.
Yeah, and they feel like there's other voices, other podcasts or other news outlets that are representing other themes, and they're like, why should I have to give any attention to what they're saying, So they're not in the business of giving a nuance, a complete.
They're not fair.
They don't want to have a complete discussion. Agenda. Yeah, it's just their agenda. That's it.
To wrap up, to sum it up, what would you say our mission? I guess our agenda, that's our agenda. What's our agenda?
Our agenda is getting to the bottom of truth, to learn, to grow, to talk with people who might agree with us, might not agree with us, and we don't have any answers. We're trying to figure this mess out together with you, the listener. So join us. If you don't like us, here's the finger, and by finger I mean Linda Sarsour's index finger, not the other finger. You dirty kids.
All right. On that note, we will wrap it up for today. Please comment when we replace this. So please comment. A lot of talking points here that we can engage our listeners in. A few of you guys always engage with us, and give us feedback, positive or negative, as far as whether you agree or not, and we appreciate that. We don't mind to disagree. Conversation is always good. That's healthy for us. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email us at themadmamluks@gmail.com. You can also like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and we are on Instagram, but we need to, I need to ramp up the post a little bit. Maybe we need to get the studio in there. So follow also by the same name, the Mad Mamluks. Subscribe to us on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. We're also on Android apps such as Stitcher. So for my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir Saeed, Sim, and Mort, this is Mahin signing off for the Mad Mamluks. Assalamu alaikum.